I've just got this case, Montech HS01. It is my first back connect capable case, and you can actually build a reverse PC like this in this case. So let me show you how to get a PC build like what I have done over here.
Wait a moment, just wait a moment.
Well, sort of. Why? Let me explain to you as I go on with the build. So this is the HS01, a black mid-tower case with a glass front panel as well as easy to detach panels. The Montech HS01 features a textured front cover where you can install either 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans or up to a 360mm radiator. For the top, you can install up to a 360mm radiator but not 140mm fans. You can only install up to 3 120mm on the top. Before I go on to the bottom, which has a more interesting design, what's cool is Montech allows you to have 2 120mm fans at the rear. You will have to remove this cover first, but you can either have 2 120mm fans or 1 120mm radiator. But the question is, will you want to have these fans as intake or exhaust? I think that depends if you have a standard build or a reverse PC like mine. There's also a mesh cutout design at the back, which I believe serves as an exhaust area for your power supply. The power supply will be mounted vertically behind the panel, so the fan in the power supply will remove heat away from the PC case. And because it is mounted at this area, there's a long power cable to the rear of the case. And the power outlet is also located at the top of the case. There's a rubber grommet here, which will be useful for any fan cables that come from your rear fans. And I also would like to point out about these 4 feet. You can detach and reinstall on the top if you want to have a reverse PC like mine. It's kind of easy. I will show you how to do so in a later part of the video. Okay, so let's see what's inside the case. The first thing I want to remove in no particular order is this bottom dust filter. There are magnets located around the filter, so you can remove and put back the filter very easily. This is useful if you want to wash the filter, but anyway, it is also necessary to remove it if you want to install bottom fans. Next, the top panel also has magnets, so it is the easiest to remove. Grab onto this nice leather handle and pull it away. As for the back and glass panels, just grab onto the notches and pull them away. It can be slightly more difficult to remove the glass panel on the first try, so Montech insists that you have the case flat on the surface first before you attempt to remove the glass panel. I suggest you heed Montech's advice. Next, I will remove this cover to install rear fans. Well, this cover, sorry I have to say it, Montech really worked it very hard. Look at the amount of flex on this metal piece. Because of how much you need to bend to latch it and put it back, the stress from the angle has caused the metal piece to flex. It is not very obvious when it is on the case, but I would like to point it out in case you're wondering why this piece has such a weird angle. There are 2 plus 1 more panels that you can remove. They are at the back. One is to access the power supply area, and the other, the power cable extender for your power supply. The optional one is at the front at the motherboard area. On a side note, if you want to install SATA hard drives, this power supply shroud is one place where you can do so. It allows for either one 3.5-inch drive or 2 2.5-inch drives. The other location is on this motherboard back cover, which you can also remove to access the back of the motherboard. I was just wondering why Montech has decided to go with a metal piece for the power supply shroud, but a plastic piece for the power cable extender. Cost, or perhaps because you have to drill screws into the power supply shroud to install hard drives. Probably more of that, yes. Okay, now that we have a bare case, let's take a better look at the insides. The first thing that you may notice is the different compartments as well as cutouts for your PC parts. Even from the front, you can see where your power supply goes, the motherboard area, and also a good amount of length for your long graphics card. You can also see the same grill-like design inside, which possibly also helps to remove the heat from the system. The cool part, however, is this area for the bottom vents. Unlike the many cases which I have seen so far, this is my first time actually seeing a recessed area for bottom vents. This means that the bottom fans will not get in the way of your other PC parts, giving you full view and access to the lower part of the motherboard area, as well as giving more space for your graphics card. I also would like to point out the many cable management holes in this case, one of which you can see is for the front I/O cables, which goes from the bottom and into the back of the case. And talking about front I/O, the HS01 gives you 2 Type A, 1 Type C, 2 audio outputs, a power, and a LED button. I initially thought that this LED button is meant to control all of the lights inside your PC build, but after using it, I think it's more of a reset button because there is a reset wire in the front I/O cables. And because the HS01 is a back connect case, there are various cutouts for your back connect headers and ports on your back connect motherboard. However, you can still use a non-back connect motherboard together with the standard cutouts from the power supply to the motherboard area. It is a well thought out case with all of the cable management holes that you may require for all of your power cables, wire leads, and I/O cables. There's also a 5V 3-pin wire over here. What actually is this for? Well, there's actually an ARGB strip or strips which run along the sides of the case. As mentioned earlier, I thought the LED button is used to control the LED in the system, but I believe if you connect this 5V wire to your motherboard, you will be able to control whatever colors that you see on the strip or strips. Okay, to make it even easier to visualize the case, let's explore it while building this reverse PC. So I have a few components here, kindly provided by ASUS Singapore. This is the ROG Strix Z90 Maximus Hero BTF, the Strix 1000W Aura Edition, and the Tough Gaming RTX 5060 Ti. Other parts include the pair of 32GB Kimbank SAW Blade KRXP 6000MHz, as well as a 2TB Samsung SSD. FYI, in case you have not figured out yet, there are no fans in this HS01. But if you want the preset Montech fans, you can always opt for the HS01 Pro. And if you wanted a full glass fish tank look, you can go for the HS02. And I will also show you the rest of the parts while building the build. Let's begin with 2 APNX 140mm fans for the intake. First, you will have to remove the fan bracket at the front. I would just like to point out that it took me a few tries to finally get the correct orientation for the fan bracket. So make sure to place the bracket on the correct side of the fence and install the screws as provided. There are cable holes on the right side for you to thread the fence cables to the back of the case. To reinstall the fan bracket, you will have to use the holes that are off center to the left. You will not be able to use the center holes because the fans will block the power supply area. So install the fans off center. And before I go on to the other fans, let's transform this case first. As I've said earlier, you have to move the feet from the bottom to the top of the case. The legs are also magnetic, but you have to remove these 2 big and 2 small screws to remove them. When you have removed the legs, you can reinstall the 2 small ones so that you won't lose them. I did say the legs are magnetic, so make sure to check that you have also brought the magnets along with you when you move the feet. I was wondering why some of the feet did not stick on well, because the magnets could have dislodged during the removal process. Actually, I did not know they were magnetic until I have removed them. This is a pretty cool find. Anyway, when you have put the legs back into their new places, do remember to screw them back in. Okay, update. I was going to use the Maximus Z90 Hero BTF for this build, but somehow a BIOS update has bricked this motherboard. So I will have to return this board to ASUS. But in case you're wondering how a BTF build looks like, this is it. Okay, so I'm going to change to this X670E-F. It is a non-back connect board. And there's also a little AMD Ryzen 9 9950X3D. Wow. Okay, to install these ATX boards, as I mentioned also, you have to remove this cover to access the entire motherboard area. You can also see that the motherboard standoffs are pre-installed, and Montech gives you a guide as to which standoffs to use based on your motherboard size. Empty diamonds for ITX, empty diamonds with a dash for MATX, and colored diamonds for full ATX boards. The case is relatively light, easy to flip from up to flat during the building process. And the dual chamber design is also more apparent when you lie the case flat on the surface, which allows you to see a nice cutout area for the motherboard. Anyway, do install all 9 motherboard standoff screws. Don't be a lazy guy like I did over here. Okay, for your power supply. First, you will need to extract this bracket from the top of the case. Then you will install it on your power supply. Slide the power supply into its compartment and secure it with the screws. FYI, I forgot to make way for the power cable extender. So make sure you plug in this power cord first before you secure the power supply into the case. And if you also want to route your power supply cables into the holes, make sure to also do it first before securing the power supply. At this juncture, you can safely plug in your 24-pin as well as your 8-pin EPS power cables onto your motherboard. Okay, now for more fans. Because it is a reverse build, I'm going to keep all of the fans at the bottom, including the ones at the front, as intake. And I will use the ones on the top as exhaust. Let's add in 2 Fantex 120mm reverse fans for the bottom because I only have 2. For the rear, I have this John's Bow 120mm. There is a rubber grommet included at the rear, so you can thread the wires from the 120mm fan to the motherboard. And finally, I have another pair of John's Bow 120mm for the recessed area. It is easier to install in the bottom stock position. So I will do that before I flip the case back into the reverse position. And as for the CPU cooler, I am still not decided on what I will want to use, and also partly because I have a surprise coming up for you. Okay, we are close to the end. I'm going to install this RTX 5060 Ti vertically in a reverse position, something that I have not done before. Okay, never mind, it is not as easy as I thought it can be, so let's just install the graphics card with the case flat on the desk. And also add in the PCIe power cable.
3 days later.
So this happened. ASUS Singapore asked if I was interested to take a look at their new ROG Real 4 SLC 360 ARGB. And of course I said yes, because it is a very interesting cooler and it does look really good in PC builds. Well, that's if it fits. As you can see, the radiator is just too tall to go into the front. It actually took me a while to maneuver this, by the way. And it is also too tall to go into where it is supposed to be, which is the top or the bottom in this case for this reverse PC build. On a side note, I actually thought I was going to get the Real 4, the one with the standard length of tubes, but then I realized the SLC, which I believe S means short or aka short tubes. So even if I could fit the radiator in, I will not recommend installing this AIO at the bottom for this reverse build, because the pump will be at the bottom and I believe that doing so will diminish the AIO's cooling capacity as well as may damage the pump in the long run. That said, you can use this AIO for a standard PC build. So since I already have so many fans, why don't we have more fans? So I'm going to use this Cooler Master MA824 Stealth to cool this 9950X 3D. So I've got to say, this reverse PC build turned out pretty well. So first things first, you can see that I no longer have the APNX fans at the front because I am not able to put the front panel back because the APNX fans are too thick. So I've changed to these 3 tough TF120 fans. They are also ARGB, but they seem to be a bit louder than the APNX fans. And I'm also not able to put back the rear fan cover. Also because the John's Bow fan is too thick, but I don't really care because the John's Bow fans look really nice. So to put it this way, the correct method is to use fans that are of the same size like the tough fans or the Montech fans that come with the case. And by the way, I also like to mention that there is no fan controller in this version of the case. According to the manual, you can mount one at the power cord extender area. I believe you will get a fan controller if you bought the HS01 Pro, the one that comes with the pre-installed Montech fans. Well, number one, building in this case is kind of straightforward. Okay, it is actually pretty straightforward. Besides figuring out the front intake bracket, the switching of the feet, and perhaps missing some small steps along the way, I was easily able to follow the manual and slide all of the PC parts into their respective locations. Number 2, the case is relatively light, which is pretty useful because I like to build PCs when the case is flat on the surface, and because this is a reverse PC build, there's a lot of flipping from top to flat to slide the PC parts into place. I especially like the different sections for the various parts, as well as the ample height from the back area when the case is flat on the table. I don't necessarily tie up all cables before I finish the build, so this angled design of the back chamber ensures that your cables will not be squashed or get in the way when you have the case flat or are flipping the case around. Just on a side note, the power cables on the Asus 1000 watt Aura are pretty flexible, so they suit a case like this for a back connect build where all the power cables are at the back. So cable management will be more difficult, and you want to have flexible power cables like this to bundle all of them together. I also like that Montech chose to have the power supply at an alternative location hanging from the top so as to give room to the other back connect headers on your motherboard. You can rest all of the power cables in this section, and you can have the other wires such as the front I/O in the other section. Number 3, some of you may be wondering if you should use a non-back connect motherboard in this Montech HS01. Well, I would say there are both pros and cons for both back connect as well as non-back connect motherboards. For a back connect motherboard like this Z90 Hero BTF, the HS01 has all of the various cutouts that you need. You can have a very clean PC with minimal wiring at the front, especially if you get a back connect capable graphics cards such as the Asus RTX 5090 Astro BTF. But of course, this means that all of the cables, including the ones that are at the front, will be at the back, and cable management may end up being more difficult than having a regular non-BTF PC. I personally, as of right now, prefer a non-BTF PC because of all of the potential cable management problems that you may have in a BTF build. You can see that even in this non-BTF build, the front wiring is minimal or sort of hidden from view because of the various cable management holes that the HS01 provides. And you can see that I also kept the ATX3 power cable nicely tucked in between the graphics card and the CPU cooler. Number 4, with regards to the recessed bottom area, which is now at the top, you can see that it does its job. The fans are kept hidden from sight, and you have ample room for the bottom slots as well as a bigger space for your graphics card. Well, now that I look at it, it does not really matter that I can't see the ARGB on the bottom fans, because the front ARGB strips is just so overwhelming and it is in front of the face. And lastly, I do like the idea of a reverse case because it gives you options of whether you want to have the case on the left or on the right. While the fan configuration may not be the best because the 5060 Ti is not able to take in fresh air, it still stayed relatively cool in games such as Cyberpunk. The 9950X3D ran hotter, but it is still okay because it is meant to run at such temperatures. However, if you want to install an AIO in this reverse build, it will be better to install it at the front with the fans as intake. Do not, as mentioned earlier, install the radiator at the bottom because the AIO's pump may get wacky after long periods of usage. I've really enjoyed building a PC in this Montech HS01. Hopefully, Montech can come up with a version to accommodate thicker fans such as the APNX fans and have a bigger rear cover for also thicker fans such as the Johnsbow 120mm fans. And at a price of 120 SGD or almost $100 US, I say that this HS01 is pretty good for mid-range, mid-sized case, which gives you the option of having a reverse and stock PC as well as a BTF or non-BTF PC build. So do give this case a look. Like if you like this video, comment down below if you want to give a reverse PC a try or still prefer a stock PC, and see you in the next video.